You are now listening to the voice of horror.
Lock your doors, bolt your windows, and turn off the lights. Make sure the kids are safe at home, cause you're headed to the Night Watch Zone.
Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are on a Sunday evening, and we're going to get together. We're going to hang out and all the spoilers, baby, for the Exorcist Believer. That is our main topic. And what I want to do here tonight is basically have a forum for all of us to talk about this film, our thoughts, and to not have to really worry about, spoiling it. So hopefully you've seen the movie, or some folks, they don't mind talking about a film and the spoilers before they see it and so forth. So this is that arena. We have spoilers ahead. So, so you have been warned. But I wanted to get and give an opportunity to talk with folks. I had obviously released earlier today my review and my initial thoughts that were non-spoilerish on The Exorcist Believer, which of course in the big picture, people have been talking about this for the last couple of days. Those who had gotten a chance to see it early. I didn't get a chance to see it early, but I put my video out, and it seems like there's a lot of talk, on both sides of the fence, which is what I assumed what would be happening. So I wanted to get a sense. Some of you guys have messaged me, on social media and things like that. So I thought this would be a chance for us to kind of talk about it for a little bit and see what we get. Let's see who we have in the chat. Hey, we got Kyle. What is going on? Enjoyed Cobweb more than Exorcist Believer. I totally agree with you. And Kyle, I don't know if you saw my thoughts on Cobweb. Actually, it's interesting. I've been in the last couple days throwing out a lot of content on movies and stuff. But yeah, I agree. Cobweb was very enjoyable, and I enjoyed that more than Believer. And then saying Saw X over Exorcist Believer. Yes, and I talked about Saw X, I think it was last week, and I really enjoyed Saw X. It's interesting when you think about it, because Saw X is it's a good example of how to do a legacy sequel, even though it's put in the middle of the timeline, not in the middle, but the early part of the timeline. And of course with The Exorcist, it doesn't work that way. But Saw X, in other words, was able to find a way to do something with a little bit of a fresh take, while also honoring what the franchise is about and what the audience expects. And with The Exorcist Believer, it was a mountain to climb from the very beginning. We all know that. But I do want to get into some of the specific things about it, which of course, some of these things are spoiler heavy. So for you guys in the chat, let me know your thoughts on it, or what you'd like to discuss about it specifically. Val, what's going on, Val? Good to see you. Hollywood guys in the chat, what's going on? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well and having a good weekend. Val saying there were a couple of things I did like about the movie. Yeah, I think here's the thing. And if you guys saw my video on it, I got to give a shout out to my good buddy. I haven't even messaged him back because I've been pretty busy this evening. But my good buddy Jason from BT Cinema, well, and I've had a couple people, but I'm talking about him specifically, saying that he really enjoyed the review and enjoyed me giving kind of both sides of it, and I think that we'll see, but my intention is to kind of approach reviews, or at least initial reviews, that way, to give you guys both sides of it, because there's always two sides to every story, in my opinion. For me, there's always something that you can say, okay, they did a good job or a decent job with. And so I agree, Val, there were a couple things, for me there were more than a couple things, that I really thought was good about the movie. So let's see. Hollywood guy saying I was going to pass on this movie, so I'm good. Spoil away. All right. Jason, what's going on? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Jeff is in the chat. What's up, Jeff? Saying it was terrible. 0 scares. Poking out Ellen Burstyn's eyes. She deserved better than that. She did deserve better than that. It's interesting because David Gordon Green, Ellen Burstyn had talked about her experience on the movie, and how when she was first told about the film, and I guess David Gordon Green spoke to her personally about what they were trying to do and about the script, and explaining Chris's entry into this film, and what she's about, and all of that type of stuff. And she got to one point and said, David, you're not going to kill me in this, are you? And he said, no, and this and that. But no, they poked out her eyes. And I was thinking, why did you do that? Now I will say, at least they didn't throw her onto a trash pile like they did Sally Hardesty in the New Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was absolutely ridiculous. That's here, it's almost funny. You look at 3 examples, right? You look at Laurie Strode in Halloween, in these, the Halloween trilogy. You look at Sally Hardesty in the New Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you look at Chris McNeil in this new Exorcist film. And it's funny because we got a lot of people that are big haters of David Gordon Green, or at least of Halloween Ends, maybe Kills and Ends. But in my opinion, it's like a spectrum. Laurie Strode is the way you do a legacy character in a long-standing franchise. She had a good character arc. She had interesting moments. She was a part of the story, not just a glorified cameo, right? So that's the way you do it. That's the good side. The bad side is what they did with Sally Hardesty in the New Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? And then in the middle is what they did with Chris McNeil. Because in the beginning with Chris, I was on board. I was like, okay, so this is how they're going to bring her in. She is an author on her experience with Reagan and so forth, and she was consumed with spirits and evil and exorcisms and stuff like that. So that's kind of a way they're going to bring her into this film. So that was interesting. I was okay with it. But 0 scares, I mean, it had creep factor. Here's a question, Jeff, so you let me know. Does the original Exorcist scare you, or do you get scared by movies in general? Because there's some folks that I've talked to, and they don't get scared by any horror movie. So it's almost like, well, we can't judge this film that way because you don't get scared by anything. You know what I mean? But it's interesting because it's all about perception. It's about perception of what people get out of their experience of film, right? So, and hey, Val, good to have you. Gina's reminding people, hit the like button if you haven't already. It helps to support the channel. Yeah. Jack, what's up? Saying I have not seen it. I'm not looking forward to it. So spoilers, okay. All right. Okay. And Jack, I will email you because I had been working a whole bunch of extra shifts. We had some emergencies at work, but I have not yet, though. Jerry, what's up? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. And we've got Jamie saying hello there. Hello, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the stream. I don't think I've seen you here, but welcome. Mr. Dan, what's going on, Dan? Dan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this film whenever you see it, if you haven't already. MAGA, what's going on? Good to see you. We got BTT saying, woo, Exorcist Believer gets a solid B. And BTT made some good points about, and just to let you guys know, I do read comments, and I appreciate comments, and also some of you guys that I have the opportunity to talk to on social media. But BTT made a really good point, because the film, it doesn't have, that strong exorcist character. You have a character that is, you know, um, kind of quote unquote the exorcist, but he's a very, very small character that kind of comes in at the end. It's really about all these different faiths coming together, and of course, someone who isn't necessary, who lost his faith, and that's Victor's character, played by Leslie Odom. Who, by the way, I think Leslie Odom did a really good job in the film. And I think, again, there's going to be people that absolutely despise this film, and that's fine. But I do think that Leslie Odom had a really good performance. Definitely had some good scenes. But there isn't that one exorcist, right? And BTT made a comment, and BTT, correct me if I'm wrong, but was saying that was what was kind of refreshing, is that they didn't have that standard guy that comes in and he's going to be, the savior, of the movie and so forth. And when I read that comment, I thought to myself, that's a great point. You know, when you have a legacy franchise and you're making legacy sequels, you have multiple things you got to do. And I said this in my review. You have to cater to the old audience, and you have to cater to a new audience, or a modern audience, I should say. And most times you're not going to please both sides. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you have that quote unquote exorcist character that comes in and has the wisdom and all of that type of stuff and saves the day, well, that's cool, you get that. But then people would say, well, that's the same thing we saw in 1973, same movie. So this film took a chance, or I should say tried to do something a little bit different. And for me personally, I was happy that they did. I was happy about that. I know some people are not, and but I think it's an interesting conversation. Believer just didn't hit the mark for having an OG character return and a bunch of missed opportunities. And I will agree with that. I think they could have done so much more with Chris. Now I don't know if that was a decision on purpose. Maybe it was Ellen. I don't know. But I do think that they could have done a lot more with her. She didn't come into the film until halfway through the film, so which is fine if it's done right. But I definitely think there was missed opportunities with her. It was also missed opportunities even in the scene where she gets blinded. I think that there were some missed opportunities. We saw that in the trailer, and when she is confronting Catherine, and they have their little back and forth, and are you looking for Reagan and all that type of stuff. I think they could have done some more with that. As a fan of this subgenre of horror, I wanted more before she was kind of blinded and kind of pushed out of the film. So let's see, Jason saying yes, there will be another Halloween. There's no doubt about that. No doubt at all. No doubt. Maggie's got the pumpkins in the house. Gina, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed the conversation that I had with my good friend Kara. It was really cool. And hey, just when you thought it was safe, we've got a knock on the door. And let me just say, I can't wait to hear this, because me and this good friend of mine, we haven't even talked about this movie yet, but I can't wait to hear his thoughts. And like I said, this is going to be all spoilers. I'm calling this the haters edition, taking all comments, good or bad. But let me bring him in. Here's my good friend, the horror miser, Monty G.
Yes. I had to come on.
What's up, man?
Sorry, I'm late. Got to do the family thing with the wife. So I just
That's right.
plus I was watching football. So I said,
Yes.
let me just take a look and see what, because I actually saw the thing you were doing it tonight. I saw,
Yeah.
crap, darn. I hope he has the time enough to get me. But then I had to, fix dinner and all that stuff like that. Just came back down. I said, let me just check Twitter, and I said, oh God, he sent me the. All right, yes.
Right, right, right. So look, man, I did a non-spoiler or uploaded a non-spoiler review this morning, and so this is all spoilers. So and I have no idea. Now I know you're a huge fan of the original, and we've had our conversations, and I'm sure we're gonna have some funny moments too. But what are your overall thoughts of The Exorcist Believer?
As far as my overall thoughts is concerned, it was kind of what I expected. I expected something like that. I mean, first of all, everyone should know there is no way in the world you're going to duplicate the impact that The Exorcist had, and I know that for sure. I saw the
Mm-hmm.
movie in theaters. I saw the type of reaction people had when they saw it. First of all, it's you have to understand during the 70s, no social media, there's no internet. So it was
Mm-hmm.
just simply just word of mouth. People just coming up to your street. Yo, have you seen The Exorcist? You got to check that out. The movie's crazy as shit. It's like I've never seen anything like that. So you're not going to duplicate that. And as I stated in my review, you're going to have some good horror films that come close, like say Insidious,
Mm-hmm.
Hereditary, Midsummer, The Conjuring.
Mm-hmm.
Those films like that. You're simply not going to duplicate or have the same type of impact that the film that based upon William Peter Bagley's novel and directed by William Friedkin. You're just not
Mm-hmm.
going to duplicate that. You can still make up a good, decent film. Now, I like what David Gordon Green tried to do. He
Mm-hmm.
tried to do something a little bit different. I like the fact that he actually used two girls to be possessed.
Yes.
There are some good moments in the film. I like the interaction between Vincent and Angela. I like some of the stuff they did during the exorcism. I actually didn't have a problem with Ellen Burstyn's role. I know I watched a couple of the people. A lot of people did not like the fact how they used her. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of had no problem with it. She didn't dominate the film because it's not her story, it's their story. It's just logical that a person who has and had that experience reaches out to someone who has that experience. So that type of the story made sense to me.
Yeah.
My only problems with the film is the lack of character development with the other girl, Catherine. I felt
Mm.
as though we didn't get enough of her family dynamic. We only see like a brief introduction to her and her family, but we really don't get enough. We
Mm-hmm.
really don't get enough of Angela and Catherine's friendship. Are they really good friends? Or no? How come their parents don't know each other? Because at that age, when you have friends, your parents, you should know them. And the fact that when they get taken, they don't know each other at all. I know,
Right.
I guess they thought that would make it more suspenseful,
Mm-hmm.
but to me, it didn't take away from the child actors who played. I thought they both did pretty good, but I wanted to see a little bit more interaction between the two girls and more character development with Catherine, as opposed to we got more with Angela and Victor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that I think it was lopsided in the fact that it was very very heavy with Victor and Angela, and it didn't give enough of Catherine and her side of it with the parents, which that kind of threw me off because I was assuming it was going to be, obviously it may not be 50-50 as far
Hmm.
as the time spent on the girls, but I thought it would have been a lot closer than what it was. But yeah, I don't know. That kind of got me too, as far as, they didn't really have that connection, the two sets of parents and stuff like that. But then again, maybe they were figuring that was going to make what happened in the third act hit a little harder. For me, it didn't.
Yeah.
But maybe that's, what their thought was. But and I said the same thing in my review too. There was no way. Listen, and I know you know this, but just talking, for the audience, there's just no way you were going to be in the same parking lot as The Exorcist.
Mhm.
It's virtually impossible. The only thing you can hope is that the film was going to be good and, be something that people could say, hey, that was a pretty good job and so forth. But there was no way you were going to reach those levels because that first film, it came out at a time when people hadn't seen this stuff,
Yeah.
so there was multiple layers of shock value. The world was well, I don't want to say more religious, but just coming out when it did in America, there were a lot of people that just the fear of God was alive and well, and it's not like that today. So this film had multiple obstacles. So for me going into it, and I've talked about it leading up to before I saw it, I went into it just saying, I just hope it's decent. I hope it's decent. I hope it's better than the prequels. And I hope that when I'm watching it, I can have some enjoyment. That's literally what my mindset was. I didn't go into it expecting greatness. I didn't go into it expecting it to be on the level of the original. I didn't go into it with a feeling of hate for David Gordon Green because of Halloween Ends. I
Yeah,
just went
that's
into it.
I think another problem that some people have in some of the reviews I read before I put up my review. I think people just simply just were hating on David Gordon Green just because of what happened with Halloween Ends, and
Mhm.
I get that. But you have to understand something. When I take a look at directors and their bunch of work, there are going to be times when they are very well. They hit everything, and then
Mhm.
one time they're going to miss. So I
That's
don't
right.
judge it based upon what they did in the past. Halloween trilogy is over. He's now doing The Exorcist. So
Mhm.
I just based upon that film and that film alone. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, well I hate him, but I can't stand what he. So I'm just going to hate everything he does. So I
Right.
just basically just judging this film on what he did here.
Mhm.
And like I said, there's some other people. I know. I kind of. I mean, I get what some people are saying is that there's simply no way in the world you should have done anything with The Exorcist. It was great as a standalone film. You can say
Mhm.
that about any film, but
Yes.
unfortunately, unfortunately, because the way Hollywood works right now, especially now with IPs, you're going to get sequels. You're going to get remakes.
Yeah.
That's the standard. What it is right now. Movie studios want to they're going to they're going to make the money. So it doesn't matter how much, like I said, as much as I enjoyed The Exorcist when I saw it, and I understand know what type of it's going to get. You're going to get sequels. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was doing my Exorcist series, and I talked about Exorcist 2, back during the 70s, we really didn't have sequels as far as
Right.
horror movies concerned. You had Rocky 2, you had French Connection 2, you had The Godfather 2. You really didn't
Mhm.
really see any horror movie sequels. But I think
Mhm.
because of the success of Star Wars,
Mm.
and Warner Brothers decided to say, you know what, we should do a sequel to The Exorcist. Because when
Mm.
Star Wars came out, everybody wanted the sequel, and everyone said, and I guess if Warner Brothers said, let's do a sequel to The Exorcist because at that time people were still raving about The Exorcist, and
Mhm.
of course then Jaws came out the following year, but I think that's the reason why you got the sequel. But unfortunately, they decided to go the cheap route, and that's why Exorcist to the Heretic it is the type of film that you know and again, when that film came out, it's like I wasn't expecting to do what The Exorcist did, but for
Right.
that drop off, that
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and also, and it's interesting too, because and it's funny because in this lead up to Exorcist Believer, I've kind of revisited some things about the rest of the films, and there's this really cool documentary that Scream Factory did about Exorcist 2, where they were interviewing Linda Blair,
hmm
and some stuff that I didn't even know about it, and how when they signed on to the project, it was a certain script, and that it was so many rewrites and so many deviations. And she said by the time you got to the end of the shoot, the film was something that was so different than what they originally wanted to do, as far as her and Richard Burton and
hmm
James Jones and all of them. But it's interesting with studios, but obviously they screwed all that up with the movie. But with this movie, I think other than the fact that I'm sure that with Blumhouse there was a sense of, okay, let's hurry up and get this movie out. We got to make this for the 50-year anniversary and so forth. And it's basically like a factory. Other than that, I think that they saw what they did with Halloween.
hmm
They know that popular franchises can make money. And that's exactly why they went into this whole idea of doing this new trilogy. So like you said, it's always about the money. It's always been a business. That's why when people And don't get me wrong, sometimes I feel a certain way about legacy sequels or
Hmm.
reboots or remakes, but then I got to remember that, like with this movie wasn't for me and you.
No.
This movie was for a brand new audience. Yes, they wanted us to go and see it, and they wanted to have that bridge, like with Ellen Burstyn and so forth. But this movie is to get a whole new audience just as much as it is to satisfy us older school
Hmm.
audiences. You know what I mean? And that's just how movies work, you know? And I said it in my review too, because I've heard some people say, well, we didn't need it. Of course, we didn't need it. We don't need any sequel ever.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't
And
need
that's
a
true
Jaws
of,
too.
we didn't need
We
a
didn't
sequel
need.
to Alien.
Mm-mm.
We didn't need a sequel to Superman. We didn't need a sequel to Jurassic Park. We didn't need a sequel. You name it. We didn't need a sequel.
Hmm.
And the same thing goes with remakes. But there are several times, and I'm not going to go through a list, but there's several times when there was a remake or a sequel and that I'm glad that they did make, even
Hmm.
if it wasn't greater than the original. We got things like, you know, Terminator 2. We got things like The Godfather Part 2. We got, and the
Hmm.
list goes on and on and on. So remakes and sequels and so forth, that's par for the course. That's going to happen. It's going to keep happening because these movies that are popular have a built-in audience. And that's just how it is. That's the machine, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing
I
there's
was I
nothing you
was
can do
just
about it.
taking a look at the box office numbers. It did make number one. It make 27 million for the gross. I don't know what the Hollywood was expecting the film to make, but it did make 27 million. I don't know if that's what they really wanted to make. The film, because the
Yeah.
film did cost 30 million. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's probably not the numbers they look for. I'm pretty sure they wanted to get a little bit higher than that, maybe
Yeah.
closer to 40 to 45 million. But
Mhm.
it's going to eventually, make his money back, but it's probably not the box office that they were looking for. And like I
Yeah.
said before, it's an okay film. It's
Mhm.
not bad. It's not The Exorcist 2. I don't think you can make another terrible film in this franchise as you did with Exorcist 2, The Heretic. It's a little bit better than Exorcist, the beginning, and
Mhm.
Dominion.
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 Mhm.
Is it the worst? Put it this way, as far as all the possession exorcist films that I've seen, it's not the worst I've seen, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I think David Gordon Green, he did a okay job. There's
Mhm.
some things he could have done better. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen based upon how this film ends, how the story is going to continue. But I'm pretty sure that they'll find a way to continue the story about who's going to be the character right now and who's actually going to be the deceiver. Because I
Mhm.
think one of the reasons, yeah, French Connection has a sequel.
Mhm. That's right.
Yeah, my mother actually took me to go see French Connection too. I never saw the original one. My mother saw it, and she
Mm.
took me and my brother saw French Connection too, and it ended on a very positive note at the end. And yeah, so I really don't know what direction he's going to go as far as the Deceiver. I believe it's going to be open out in 2025, so he's got plenty of
Mhm.
time to hopefully sit down and craft a nice, decent story and come up with a somewhat better follow up for Deceiver.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
think the reason why he called it Believer because of Victor,
Mhm.
because he lost his faith after what happened to his life in
Mm.
Haiti, and it was all about his faith. You
Yep.
know. Hmm.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's what Val was saying. It came full circle in the end. Victor chose to save his wife, and she died.
Mm.
Tony chooses to save Catherine, and she dies. That was an interesting twist.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good.
I actually did like that. I actually liked when the demon was telling them you have to choose, and everyone
Mhm.
thinking is that okay, we're going to choose the person who lives, but actually they were choosing who dies. I actually thought it was a nice kind of a twist on play.
Yeah.
You feel sorry for Catherine's family, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, the father decided I choose Catherine. Unfortunately, she's the one that dies.
And the other thing too, and I haven't talked about this yet, but obviously this will be great conversation from here on out. But Catherine's parents were very religious, right?
Hmm.
And Victor was not, right? But in that moment, when it all came down to the moment, when it all, when all the cards are on the table, you know, Catherine's father totally had lost faith and was
Yes.
ready to make a deal with this demon, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's totally not what someone so super religious as he is should do, or you would think would do. But he basically said, "Hey, I'm choosing my daughter over this other innocent girl," and Victor wouldn't do it. So
Hmm.
it was kind of like it was a flip flop on a lot of different levels. And I know there's a lot of people who will say, "Yeah, we saw that coming," or "Hey, it wasn't that big of a deal." But you got to remember, and me and you both absolutely love the original film, and it is it's an amazing film still to this day. It's literally perfect. But you got to remember, we have to try to give you something new. We have to try to at least put some effort in there. And I think when you have that scene in the finale, I think that that was a pretty good way to craft a little bit of new territory
Hmm.
in this well-worn subgenre. I mean, it's super well-worn. I mean, the demon was basically saying, "Hey, it's not so much that the quote unquote that an exorcist will save a girl. It's basically you guys are going to make a choice on who lives and who dies." And I look, I'm just saying, I thought it was at least intriguing and decent, because it was something I didn't expect.
Hmm.
Um, but to me, and I want to get to some of these comments in here too, for
Oh
you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
that are watching. But to me, I think that the first half of the film was the stronger
Oh yeah,
part of
the
the
first part
film.
of the film was stronger. Like I said,
Yeah.
I had no problem with the exorcism. I thought the combining of different religions was an interesting idea. It was something different, but unfortunately, it kind of convolutes some of the stuff that was happening. You got all these religions, we got the Catholic, you got the Protestant, you have the
Mm-hmm.
another, I guess, voodoo religion, in the mix right
Mm-hmm.
there, which I thought it was pretty interesting right there. But I think it was a bit convoluted. I think if he would have spent more time, with
Mm-hmm.
that, if he's going to do that, then I would understand it. But it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. If they had spent maybe a little bit more time with, like you said, the lady who was, the voodoo or the natural faith or whatever, maybe spent a little bit more time with her as a character to give her some weight, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think that that would have been uh a good choice, because the one, and I suppose it's the strength of the original, because the strength of the original is that it's lean and mean. You have four main characters: Karis, Marin, Chris, and Reagan. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And you get enough time with all four of those characters to get invested into what plays out in the final 30 minutes of the film. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? And with this movie, although they, and I give them credit, because I wanted this to have some good character stuff. I didn't want to just see a bunch of heads turning around and a bunch of curse words. I wanted it to have some weight. And I give David Gordon Green some credit. He what's the word I want to use? He fought the impulse to just, wow us with jump scares.
Because that's one of the things I said in my review is that he didn't do the typical possession stunts that we normally
Yes.
see in these films. With the twisting and the
Right.
crazy body movement.
Yes.
Even though sometimes it can work at times, but we've seen it
Mm-hmm.
all the time before. We really don't see any head spewing. The
Mm-hmm.
girls don't throw out f bombs all the time, but like we always
Right.
see in these movies like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
give him credit for not trying to do the typical stuff that we've seen in possession horror films.
Yeah. And of course, like I said earlier, when you're doing legacy sequels, you're damned if you do
And
and you're
damn you
damned
don't.
if you don't. Because if he had done a bunch of that, everyone would have said, "Oh, it's the same old stuff we've seen a thousand
It's like, oh,
times. Why
he ain't
can't you
doing
do anything
anything new.
different?"
He just the same stupid
Right.
shit we've seen before. It's like,
That's right.
hmm.
That's right. It's a no-win situation. Hey, Polar, what's going on? Good to see you. Hope you're
Hey,
doing
Polar.
well. All right.
Yeah,
Cody's
someone.
in the chat.
Yeah,
What's up,
someone said
Cody?
something about Totally Killer about being better than this movie right here. I actually saw Totally Killer today.
I haven't seen it
It's
yet.
yeah. I won't say too much about it. It has its moments, and I'll say
Mhm.
that's all I'll say.
Okay.
I don't want to ruin the movie for you. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but it's an interesting idea. The
Hmm.
no Back to the Future meets Scream.
Hmm. Okay.
Hmm.
What's up? Dino's in the chat saying, "What's up? Hate to be so negative on the film, but I have not heard one positive thing about it." Well, guess what?
Guess what?
We,
Watch my review. check out
watch Monty's review,
Watch my
and
review, Dino. And
and
I actually have some positive thing. Like I said, it was like I said, it's not a bad horror film, and I could understand why the people didn't like it. But I think
hmm
they were expecting something momental, and I think they had their expectations set up too high. And
yeah, yeah,
because it's like this when you're dealing with a film like The Exorcist, it's just like with the prequels of Star
hmm
Wars.
yes,
Everyone was expecting something spectacular, and then we
hmm
get that. I said you guys were expecting too much because
right,
you're not going to duplicate what George Lucas did in the
hmm
original trilogy. In
right,
the trilogy, yeah, we had some great moments in the film
hmm
in those trilogies, but again, you were expecting too much.
mm,
But like I
yeah,
said, Dino, check out my review because, like I said, because I saw some of the negative stuff people were saying. Some people said it's the worst movie of the year. I said no, I seen worse movies
oh
this
yeah,
year than
yeah.
Exorcist Believer.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the truth, Dino. So definitely check out Monty's review. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. That's for everyone here. And I think Val had put Monty's link in the chat. But
Thank you, Val.
yeah, thank you, Val. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely not the, like I said, and I said this maybe even a month or so ago in a live stream, that I knew that this movie would not suck.
Mhm.
And it didn't suck.
No,
You
it
know,
didn't suck. No.
it wasn't great either, but
Mm-mm.
I think they did some good things. It, to me anyways, I appreciated Leslie Odom's character. I think he had some fantastic moments, especially in that first half. You know,
Hmm.
I think the young ladies, I think they did a pretty good job with what they had. I do agree Catherine didn't get enough screen time and development as Angela did. You know, I think
Hmm.
if Catherine had gotten as much time as Angela or closer to it, I think it would have given it a lot more balance. But there were some good things in it. Bluck is in the chat saying Universal projected 90 million to 120, with a 41 million to 61 million domestic haul. Okay,
Yep.
all right,
It certainly didn't
yeah,
meet those expectations.
yeah, yeah.
Did you tell the chat about the end scene, the final scene of the film?
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet, but let's talk about it. I mean, now, and this will be an interesting conversation. What were your thoughts on Linda Blair?
I was not surprised.
Okay.
I actually kind of predicted it myself, but I didn't let anybody else know. I said it wouldn't surprise me
Mm-hmm.
if she shows up and she shows up at the end of the film. So I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't surprised, but I actually still love the scene. It was a
Mm-hmm.
very
Mm-hmm.
effective scene. We see the fact that she's going on this tour, and she said her daughter didn't like it, and then we haven't spoken for a long period of time. And then that end scene right there, when she can't see and she thinks it's Victor, but it's actually Reagan. I actually thought it was a very nice touch. I actually thought it was a very nice thing that David Gordon Green decided to do. I'm pretty sure some people are not going to like it. Some people will probably hate it. I had no problem with it. I actually enjoyed the scene. It was nice enough for Linda Blair to be in the film. Like I said, neither her nor Ellen Burstyn are the focal point in this film. This is not their story. Their story has been concluded. This is just their story. But it's just like when you do have any legacy characters. Put it this way: it's a better job than they did than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre did with Sally's character. That's what you don't
It
do with legacy character.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier too. That's what you don't want to do. I I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I wasn't surprised, but it was still kind of like, oh wow, there it is, we got it, and it listen.
Sorry, Strange Monkeys just said Shark Exorcist.
Oh God. what's what's up, strange
So
monkey?
Strange Monkey. Go ahead.
Right. But um
Oh
but
man.
but it was great seeing Linda Blair, and I've heard some people say, that it was fan service and this and that, and it's like, look, man, every time a movie is made, or I should say, especially if it's a sequel or whatever, there's going to be fan service in it, because you want to keep that group that knows about the film and the characters. You want to keep them, on board. And so it's always about fan service. The question is how it's executed,
Hmm.
and if it serves the story. And I thought it worked fine.
Yeah, because
She came
Val
back.
said she was surprised when she saw Reagan showed up. She said wasn't expecting it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. She did tell me that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that there were folks, and I know Val definitely enjoyed seeing Linda Blair. Hey, Ronan, what's going on? I'm glad that folks enjoyed it, and I'm sure that some folks maybe didn't, because they felt like Strange Monkey. Shark Exorcist is horrible. It's
That
true, man.
K. Ojo. No, the autopsy of a Jane Doe is not a possession film.
No, it isn't.
It's not.
No, it isn't.
It's more witchcraft than it's supernatural, but it's more witchcraft than possession. It's not a possession film.
Right. Yeah. And this is Monty's link here in the chat. So if you guys have not subscribed to him, please do. You guys know Monty
Thank you,
rocks.
man.
He's been in here many times, and also when we do our Deadly Venom stream. So definitely make sure you go and subscribe to him ASAP.
Oh yeah,
But
just let you guys know. I apologize. I missed the last denim. I was on rock and chilling on this nice cruise boat.
yeah,
So it's not. It's kind of hard trying to be in the live stream, but you're on this nice cruise boat.
I know. Well, we were jealous, man. We were jealous. We were like, man, Monty's chilling out. But yeah, we'll hopefully set up something to do our follow up soon. But yeah, we were all kind of like, oh man, it sucks that we're doing this without Monty because we wanted you there. But we're glad you had a great vacation too, man.
Oh yes,
That was
yes.
awesome.
So celebrating the big 6-0 on that cruise, and my Kelly and I, we had a great time. Just like I said, you and you and what am I? What's good? Babe, I'm getting old.
Oh, Coriander.
Coriander, you got to do a cruise.
I know, man. I know. Maybe you never know. You never know.
Mhm.
But now, one thing I want to hit a couple of these comments here too. Jeff, who had said earlier that the movie didn't have any scares in it, but said to answer the question, I love the original Exorcist film, the best horror film ever made, in my opinion. And I can totally agree. It's absolutely a fantastic film. But here's my question for all of you guys. When you hold an original that high, and rightly so, with The Exorcist, how does it change your perception of a sequel or even other films in that same subgenre? Because I know for me, there's been so many possession films or exorcism films or whatever since 1973's Exorcist, and very few of them are in even the parking lot of that original. There's a few that are pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm wondering how that changes the way they look at things. Because I think, for what Monty is saying and the way I look at it, you got to go into it with the idea of, look, this is not going to do anything that the original didn't do, as far as just breaking ground and being so amazing. But going into it with an open mind hopefully allows you to enjoy some things, if it's an enjoyable film at all, which I think that this film did have some enjoyable moments. I really, really do.
Yeah, I could actually contest to that because I think maybe when did that come out? I think maybe a year after that, the Sentinel, Exorcist came out. Yeah,
Mhm.
when the blaxploitation films were coming out in the 70s, Abby came out in 1974, and that's the Black Exorcist ripoff. I mean, it was
Yep.
cheaply done, almost on the line of Blankenstein. It was okay. You had your few laughs, at that time right there, but obviously it was not going to duplicate what The Exorcist did. But you can know that it wasn't for The Exorcist, there's no way we would have a horror movie called Abby. But that was based more on voodoo stuff than actual possession. But still, me and my boys, when we went to go see it, we had a good time laughing because we thought it was funny. Yeah, but yeah, I can attest to that because I think that's one of the first Exorcist ripoffs that came out was Abby.
Yeah. True enough. Bluck is saying, well, even if you took away the Exorcist tag, what did it do that is new to the genre? Multiple possessions is Evil Dead's shtick. Child possessions has always been a focus in the genre. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously that's the rub, right? It's like, what can you do that's really new? And some of these subgenres have a wider lane than others, right? When you're talking about Exorcist exorcism films or possession films, I think it's very narrow. You've got someone that's afflicted with it. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to act crazy, be ill, or whatever, terrorize the ones that they love, make the ones that they love suffer in one way or the other emotionally. And then someone is going to try to cure them, and they're going to have a battle with a demon or spirit or whatever. That's basically what an exorcism or possession film is,
Yep.
as far as the bare bones. Now, if you look at something like a slasher film, the slasher subgenre, to me, that's a much wider lane
It's
because
it's easy to duplicate Halloween and Friday the 13th,
mhm,
those slasher films as opposed to do a possession exorcist film.
right.
That's why when it really wasn't Halloween that actually started the slasher craze. It was after Friday the 13th came out in 1980 and the success
Mhm,
that film made. All of a sudden, all students started making a whole bunch of slasher films because, like I said, it's cheap to make, doesn't cost that much
right.
money, and all you can do is simply just do the same type of formula. So it's easier to do that as opposed to
Mhm,
do a possession exorcist film.
right, right.
Mm,
Because, again, it's very basic. I mean, now if you turn it on its head, you can have some interesting breathing room. If you look at something like The Exorcism of Emily Rose,
yes.
or even The Exorcist 3, which was like this whole serial killer mystery type of thing that was kind of on
Hmm.
the outskirts of a quote unquote exorcism film. It's like that's one way that you can kind of breathe some fresh life into it. But other than that, it's going to be kind of par for the course. You've seen it before. The question is, how do you relate to the characters?
Hmm.
What do they bring to the table and so forth? So, in other words, this film already had, a mountain of weight on its shoulders even before it got going off the ground. And we all knew that. I mean, when we all heard about it being made, we all talked about it, and we knew.
Yep.
Um, Val saying for me, the great OG movies don't affect how I go into a new movie in the franchise, aka Halloween. For me, the OG is goated, but I really enjoy David Gordon Green's new trilogy of Halloween. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think some people can separate themselves enough like that. And some people they can't or they choose not to, and that's perfectly fine. That's
Hmm.
gonna happen.
Yes.
Now let me ask you this. If you were to give me, a couple of things or maybe one thing that you truly just did not like about this film, what would it be?
Hmm. I don't think there's not anything I didn't like about the film. It's like I said,
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I really don't know that. There's nothing I didn't like about the film. Like I said, I was more disappointed
Hmm.
in some aspects of the film. So it's nothing what I didn't like about the film. So like I said before,
Okay.
you know, like I said, it was okay.
Hmm.
It was a okay movie, and it wasn't bad or terrible.
Okay. All right. Well
Mhm.
said. Horror Cat Dad's in the chat saying, I feel people go into a sequel or films of the same genre, comparing it to the OG, regardless of the film, whether it be subconsciously or not. I know I've been guilty of it before. That's a really good point, man.
Yeah,
And I think it's true. I think people, it is part of your subconscious. I mean, shit, I'm sitting there trying to be open-minded, but I'm thinking about the 73 movie in the back of my mind, when I was watching Believer, and kind of saying, "Oh, okay, this or okay, that." That's just a normal thing. It works both ways for a sequel because that's the advantage because you've got that built-in audience, but the disadvantage of it is you've got that audience that has these expectations. And I definitely think this film didn't live up
yeah.
to the expectations enough.
Devontae, what other ones should I be watching?
What's that?
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking at the chat right here. He said I should watch the other ones, and then I'll have a whole new low for this movie too. What other ones? I've seen them. I've
Oh.
seen them all. I just did a whole series of the Exorcist film series.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what he means by that. Devontae,
Mm,
are you talking about the Exorcist films or something else? Because if you're talking about the Exorcist, I've seen all the Exorcist films.
yeah. Let us know. Let us
Yeah,
know.
let us know.
We got Sir James coming in with a $10 super chat. And Sir James definitely is not a fan of anything from Blumhouse, saying David Gordon Green isn't deep. Wouldn't be surprised if another director steps in for the rest of the trilogy. Warner Brothers saw them coming. Yeah, I bet. Well,
uh,
I think that you do have to give, and thank you so much for the super chat, Sir James. I appreciate it, man. But you do have to give David Gordon Green some credit as far as he puts himself into the hot seat, man, after all
oh yeah.
that was going on from Halloween Kills through Ends, going into The Exorcist. Look, I think no one is stupid enough to not realize what a monumental task that's going to be. It's
Mhm.
definitely a huge gamble. If it was successful, it totally catapults you into the stratosphere as far as your director credit, right?
Right.
But if it's not successful, then you're going to go down with the ship, because everyone always blames the director. They never look at whatever the writers or the producers or the studios and so forth. So yeah, he
Yeah.
definitely put himself in
Yeah,
the
he definitely
in the
put himself
bullseye.
in the hot seat. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen now with the type of
Hmm.
money it brought in. I'm pretty sure they're going to be very disappointed. Um, they might let him go on ahead and continue on and see what happens with Deceiver.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
obviously if that fails, then he might get the boot.
Yeah,
Or they might just
absolutely.
because like I said, I don't know if because they want to bring in somebody if he already has a story set up for Deceiver and the
Yeah.
end and the end part of the trilogy. If he doesn't
Hmm.
have it already set, because I know I've read some article that said he had an idea as far as the first part and the second part. That's why he called
Yeah.
it Deceiver, but he's still just coming up with the ending of the trilogy.
Hmm.
But I guarantee you, depending upon what not Warner Brothers, Universal, because Universal, they're the ones that bought the rights.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got Tommy Lee who's coming into the chat too with a $19 super chat. Thank you so much. $20 super chat, I should say. Thank you very much. Saying, hey, Night Watch. Hey, Monty. How are you gents doing tonight?
Very
Doing
good. Thanks,
well.
Tommy G. Thanks, Tommy Lee.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And for you guys, for Sir James and Tommy Lee, let me just play you guys a quick little clip here for the fun of it. Thank you guys so much for your super chat. This one is for you.
Treat her right, treat your mother right. Treat her right, treat her right. Treat her right, treat your mother right. Treat her right, treat her right.
M is for the moan and the miserable groan from the pain that you felt when I was gone.
There it is. There it is. It doesn't get old. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tommy Lee. And Sir James coming in again with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, man. Saying I had to watch amazing classic cinema to detox from this Exorcist show. Shit show. Hey, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Well, you're not gonna make everybody happy.
Well, there was no way. There was no way. And I had called it. I said, and that's exactly why I said what I said. I said people are gonna say, yeah, it was as bad as I thought it was. It was horrible. There was nothing good about it. Everyone did a horrible job. They don't know what they're doing. But the truth of it is that there were good things in it, like you said,
Yeah.
or like Strange Monkey mentioned about Shark Exorcist or whatever. This is definitely not the worst exorcism film / possession film in existence. Is it to me, it's middle of the road, and especially when you look at the franchise isn't that great other
Mm-mm.
than the first and the third.
Sure,
So I
yeah,
think
and
this,
that's it. Yeah. The
yeah,
fact that
that's
you only
it.
have you have the first and the third, and that's it.
Right.
I thought when I heard that they were coming up with this prequel called the Exorcist, the beginning, and then when I was researching it from an Exorcist film series, and I found out that they actually how Dominion got made and how much
Hmm.
Paul Schrader got dissed by Morgan Creek
Yeah.
because they said no, it's not. Where's the gore? Where's the violence? Where's the cursing? It's like
Right.
no, and then I'll give Paul credit. He stuck by his guns. He said he was going to make any changes. Unfortunately, they gave him the boot. They gave him the boot, and then they brought in another director, and and not only did they kept still in Scarsdale as Father Marion, but they recast
Mhm.
the whole rest of the cast.
Yes.
But it's not that I just don't blame them. It's just that's what happens. Unfortunately, when you have too much studio interference, and they continue to think this is what everybody wants to see. And like I said, when I saw Dominion, I saw
Hmm.
it's a different aspect of
Hmm.
demonic possession, but it just fell flat.
Right. Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right. I agree. And it's funny because some folks, they had talked about the prequels, in recent weeks or whatever, and I'm like, man, and I haven't seen them in so long, but
Mhm.
I totally have forgotten so much about them. You know what I'm saying? Like they totally crisscross in my mind as far as what happened in the prequels. All I remember was they just didn't they just didn't do much for me, and that's why I never really revisited them whatsoever. But this film, to me, and again, I've only seen it, that one time in the theater. I'm still kind of absorbing what I saw, but I think this is definitely above the prequels, or at
Oh yeah,
least at least a smidgen above.
yeah.
The prequels are just
It's
ridiculous.
it's like this because when I was watching Exorcist, the beginning and the hyena scene, I was like, oh god, I forgot how bad this how bad the CGI hyenas are.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh my god.
Uh,
Uh, hey Joe, we got Joe from the Dreaming Insomniacs in the chat. What's going on? Sir James coming in with another super chat. Thank you so much, man. Saying Knight, he's getting 2 paychecks for directing
hey,
and
Triv.
writing. Wow. Studios are not going to be happy with the outcome. I'll know more this week. Ooh, okay. Wow. Yeah, he did help write it. So, yeah, man. It's crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Let's see, and I got to catch up to the chat here a little bit.
Mhm.
BTT saying it wasn't doo-doo. It was well crafted. They were just expecting some brand new groundbreaking thing. Expectations were way too high, but some people again just want to crap on everything. That does happen.
Yeah,
It does happen, you know.
yeah. Because one of my YouTube friends, I forgot I think it was Jason from Horrific Nightmares JM.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he actually liked the film. He said people are just hating on it probably because of David Gordon Green and some of the comments that he said. It sounds like they didn't even watch the film. They all just wanted to do with just hate on it, or they just simply just say it's the worst
Mm.
thing I saw, but don't give any explanations the reason why they didn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly, man. I mean, the fandom, it goes both ways. You have a lot of folks that will love what's going on and support it, and then you'll have a lot of fans that are really, they're more connected to that original film or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's really, it's crazy. It's
Hmm.
crazy. Let's see, we got Matt saying Linda Blair rules. It's true, she
Hmm.
does,
He
she
does.
absolutely does. um Blucka, not a fan of it. I knew you wouldn't be, Blucka. You have to, I don't know, you got to do a lot of stuff to get him to be on board with a
Uh, uh,
film. Triv, what's up?
my girl
Good to
Trev.
see you. Yeah. Hope you're doing well, Triv. Hope you're
Yeah,
doing well.
I like what Devontae's saying right
Um,
here. He said that to make a sequel 50 years later, you really need to take the time, and they rushed this
mm,
year into announcing it, so it was doomed to fail, and it deserves it. It's
hmm,
possible. It's possible that he should
mm-hmm,
have at least, not rushed the project because you don't want to do a rush job, especially when you're doing something with the Exorcist. Like I said,
right.
as far as my opinion is concerned, like I said, I thought the film was okay. Yeah, he could have done a little bit more, and there were some disappointing aspects of the film. But like I said, this is not the worst possession Exorcist film I've seen.
Right. It's definitely not the worst horror film either. Marquise is in the chat saying, "Hey, Knight, what's your worst horror movie?" Marquise, if I was to list some horrible horror movies, this would take a long time. But I will say this, when we've been doing Slasher Movie Club on Monday nights, Coriander and I, we've watched a lot of slasher films in that series, and especially from the early 80s, and it's, when the slasher craze happened. And there were some films, man, that were so bad, like Don't Go in the Woods Alone. Like, the camera work is, I mean, like and I'm not trying to crap on those filmmakers, because I know
No.
filmmakers don't go into a movie saying I want to make a crappy movie, but some filmmakers just don't have the skill or the money or the vision or whatever it may be. But like movies like that were so bad. I mean, the camera work was horrible. What do I want to say? The um clarity of the film was horrible. It was
Mhm.
cloudy. The practical effects, you could see, just things were fake. The color of the blood was wrong. It was a stupid script. The acting was horrible. Like, I could act better than the people that were doing it. So I'm just saying it is what it was. So when people say The Exorcist Believer is the worst film they've ever seen, to me, they lose credibility, because there's movies out there, but there's also movies out there, and this as well, Monty. There are movies out there that intentionally aim to be horrible or bad for comedic effect.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's a long list. In other words,
Yeah.
Marquise, it's a
Yeah,
long
Marquise,
list.
just to give you my answer to that question, as far as I'll say for this year is concerned, so far nothing tops Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
And I know some people that really love it.
Oh man, you would have, like I said before. I understand filmmaking. It's very hard to do. It costs a lot of money because because I don't know if you've seen Caesar from the horror show. Did you see Dylan's New Nightmare?
I still haven't, man.
You gotta check it out because Cecil,
know.
he went no for an independent filmmaker. It's his first time behind the camera. He actually does a pretty good job for about a good about a good 20 to 25 minute film. And I really, and for the type of, I don't know what he spent budget wise, he did a better job as a first time filmmaker than the people who did Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
There you go.
So
there you go.
So if you haven't seen Dylan New Nightmare, I'm gonna give my good friend Caesar from the horror show a nice plug. Go check it out. It's a decent follow up from Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
I've heard some good stuff about it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I can say he did a fantastic job as far as the direction wise.
I've heard a lot of good things about it.
The guy that plays Freddy does a good job. You got I think Miko Hughes. He plays Dylan. Really good, nice job that Cecil did there.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
But
and Triv, we're doing good. Hope you're doing good too, Triv. Hope you're doing good too.
Yeah.
And Sir James coming in again with a super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you. Saying, if you want to see a great David Gordon Green film, watch George Washington, his independent film on Criterion. Really? Huh. Okay.
All right. I'll check it out.
I haven't seen that. Well, there you go. That's cool. All right. Blucka saying the movie was laid out for you step by step in the trailers. That's true. Yeah. Pretty much.
Like I said before, the trailer does give away most of the plot, in the story. I really didn't have a problem with that.
Well, this is not anything new. That's what trailers do nowadays. Most trailers, especially for horror films, they give away way too many plot points, and I know that they have to, get the, publicity for the film, get the hype going and all those types of things. But they really give away major plot points that should be held, for the film. They could to me anyways, they could cut a trailer in a better way without giving you everything. But again, this goes back to our point not too long ago. When you're doing an Exorcist film, when you're doing a possession film, there's only so much that's going to happen in this movie. Like there's not, you knew that someone was going to get possessed, families were going to be in turmoil, and that someone has to try to save them. That's basically it. Those three things. That's what happens in an exorcism or possession movie. Now films that do well in this subgenre, they add little flourishes to that or in between points. Like I said, Exorcism of Emily Rose, the idea that was a court case, and you had this priest, dealing with the idea of being incarcerated and all those that added flavor
element. Yeah,
to
that
yeah.
little layer, not just the actual exorcists themselves. Then of course,
Yes.
what was her name? I forgot the actress's name.
Jennifer
Yeah,
Carpenter.
Jennifer Carpenter. She was just awesome as playing Emily Rose. I thought she did a
Yeah.
fantastic job.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like she was so captivating
Hmm.
in that role, like mesmerizing. And that's the recipe. That's a recipe for a good exorcism possession film that doesn't do the things that William Friedkin did in 1973. That's the type of stuff you got to do. You got to kind of have your own angle. You obviously have the possession thing and an exorcism thing going on, but you got to add some stuff to it that makes the audience really be invested. Horror FFA, what's going on? Hope you're doing well. I love that season of The Witch picture there. That's great. And, and by the way, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. It helps to support the channel, and I appreciate it. And
and
Val,
Jeepers
if you can
Creepers.
let us
Oh
know how it
yeah,
looks.
yeah. Then trust me, I don't know if you're going to get anything as bad as last year's Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
Yeah, yeah. Creep Show 3, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3, The Howling 7. God, I didn't even know there was a 7.
Yeah, there's a 7. New Moon
Good
Rising.
God. Hey, look, here's the other thing too. For people that are really upset with this film, think about all the Amityville films. Like that's some crazy shit. And that's what I'm saying, man. It's all about perspective. Now, granted, I will say, I know a lot of people that are really, not happy with this film. They don't watch as many films as we probably do because we do it, because we're content creators. So I
Yes.
get that, but I think that's also why it's great to have a talk like this where we can get everyone's points of views and talk about it because there are a lot of really bad horror films and bad sequels out there.
Well, yeah, because I can list them right now from Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, from Devereaux, uh, from The Flood.
Jeez.
Uh,
Oh man.
I'm pretty sure I'm missing a couple other because trust me, I got plenty of bad horror films I've seen so far this year that's going to be in my top 5 worst horror films before the year is in out. I'm pretty sure
Right.
before this year ends, I'm probably going to see a couple more bad horror films.
I'm sure. I mean, it's just how it is.
Mhm.
Uh, Eric in the chat, what's going on? Saying first hour was good after injecting Chris into the plot with her exposition dumps and cringe dialogue, all while having her eyes gouge out, was disrespectful to the original character. Act 3, enough said. Yeah, I think that I will say this, and I said this last week on my morning stream when I talked about some things I didn't want from this film. I was
Mhm.
afraid they were going to kill her. I was afraid they were going to kill her
That,
off
that,
and just kind
yeah,
of like, yeah.
I was
So
kind of,
I'm
yeah,
glad that they didn't do that.
because that did worry me. I said, if I wonder if they're going to kill her off, because I don't know how
Yeah,
I would feel about that if they did. So I'm glad they didn't kill her off. But like I said,
yeah.
I had no problem with her how she was because as far as I'm concerned, the way the story was is
Hmm.
because he had Catherine's parents are already freaking out, and
Yeah.
Victor said, you know what, I got to find somebody that knows what's going on with our daughters. So
Hmm.
it makes sense for him to reach out to, for to talk to the nurse, and the nurse says, "Here's this person," because she's reading her book. So
Hmm.
that kind of makes sense. It makes sense. We're just not bringing her on because she's a legacy character, just like they did with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know,
Right.
yeah, that makes sense story wise to me. So I don't have a problem her coming in. Now,
Hmm.
did they use? No, obviously, a lot of people are going to say how they used it was wrong. But for
Hmm.
me, like I said, I had no problem with her including in the script. I think because I don't know if you saw Cody Leach's review of The Exorcist, believe it or not, because I know he'd said something about how they convinced Ellen Burstyn to reprise her role, and I think that's the reason why some people, if they heard it or read about it, they might think this is wow, this is the reason what she gets. But for me, like I said, her inclusion in the story for me made sense logic wise and story wise.
Yeah. I mean, and plus you got to have that bridge, right? I
Hmm.
mean, that's the bridge for the OG fans, you know. And now sometimes it doesn't work very well. It's all about execution at the end of the
Hmm.
day. But I thought to myself, hey, it makes sense after what she went through in 73. She writes a book and she kind of, is interested in what she dealt with her daughter, and her daughter wasn't appreciative of it. So that kind of makes sense. It wasn't, to me, it wasn't like circus. You know what I'm saying? It totally made sense. And the fact that Victor would seek her out, to get, to someone else that knows what it's like. I mean, I didn't think that that was off the mark at all.
Hmm.
Uh, Triv saying, "Night, does Hellraiser Bloodlines make your top 10 or your top 5?" Bloodlines, listen, let me, Triv, I tell you, listen, and when I said this when we watched it and stuff, listen, it's not a good Hellraiser movie. It's not it's not a good
Pinhead in
sequel.
space.
Yeah. But there were some things in it that were good. I could say that there's some things in it that was pretty good, but there were a lot of things that were really bad, really bad. Um Devontae saying you have sequels like Blade Runner 2049 and Doctor Sleep that came way later, did terrific because the makers actually took the time to craft these long awaited sequels. That is how you do it. And I will say, I'm a huge fan of Blade Runner 2049, and I absolutely love Doctor Sleep. I think it is so underrated. But see, that's the thing about it. Both
Mm,
of those films did horrible at the box
box
office,
office. Yep.
and both of those films are severely underrated. It just didn't grab the fan base of either
Either one.
franchise
which
or
I which I
IP,
which
whatever.
I kind which I find fascinating because I
Hmm.
because I really could not, as a sci-fi person myself, for some reason I really couldn't get into Blade Runner, the original
Hmm.
film, and so
Hmm.
I really didn't have never seen Blade Runner 49 at all.
Hmm.
Obviously, Doctor Sleep, love Doctor Sleep. You can't get a better villain than Rose the Hat. Simply
Yes.
love that character. She really
Hmm.
drives that film with how she is performance. But obviously, you have the great acting of darn it. Why am my name dropping on his name? Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
uh,
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor, yeah, he did a fine job as a role, and the girl that plays, we have the girl. She was fantastic in the role. I thought she was great, playing the
Hmm.
young Shiner.
Yep.
But
Yep.
unfortunately, like I said, for some reason, it just did not make the money because it was a decent horror film. I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, I know. So again, that kind of proves the point we said earlier. When you're doing legacy sequels, you're really up against it, because if you're just damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you do something that is a little bit more fresh, people will be alienated. And if you do something that has been kind of already done, people are going to say, what do we need it for? So but it's interesting to see how people, that's the thing, it's interesting to see how people, like, if they're fans of Dr. Sleep,
Hmm.
but they may not be fans of something like, Blade Runner 2049 or this Exorcist film or whatever. And it's interesting to see why people, at the end of the day, it's all about a person's perspective, and that includes their history with the franchise. It also includes their age when they saw it, because sometimes if it's a movie that you encountered when you were younger and you really liked it, that can paint a different picture. So it's really, yeah, it's really, really, really interesting stuff, man. It
Hmm.
really, really is. Um, let's see. Just another horror fan in the chat saying, I like Blood and Honey. For as terrible as it is, I enjoyed it. All right.
Well,
Okay.
somebody has to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm
Let's
glad you
see.
did.
Let's see. Blucka saying the worst horror movie is either Jeepers Creepers 4 or The Mean One. Oh, okay.
Ooh,
Wow. All right.
ooh. I have not heard good
Um,
things. I have not heard good things about the meme. I haven't seen it yet, but I have not heard good
BT
things.
said, huh?
At
What was
least
that?
the trailer. He said at least the trailer didn't pull a Halloween Kills and literally show you everything. No, the worst
Yeah.
trailer was the Pet Cemetery remake.
Yes, that's true. Oh
That
my
that
gosh.
was the worst trailer because when you have a major twist in your
Yes.
film
Mm-hmm.
that completely twists everything from even the novel into the 1989 movie, but then you
Mm-hmm.
show it in your trailer, you're already hurting yourself because
Mm-hmm.
that's something that would have shocked the whole audience if
Yep.
you were not seen it in the trailer.
Yep. So true. It's so true,
Mhm.
man. Let's see. Blanca saying, so if you know someone is going to get possessed, why did we need a 1 hour first act before we got into that part of the film? Uh,
It's called character buildup.
I know. I was just about to say that. So you give a shit about the character.
You would at least care about what's happening to the person.
Well, that's just like in a slasher movie. It's like if you already know the actors that are going to be in the film, right? And you figure that most of them are going to be victims,
Mhm.
you got to at least give them some type of, character arc, or you're just not going to care about them getting killed, or else a slasher film would just, as soon as it comes on, people are just getting killed, just one after another. Bodies are just getting thrown around,
you know,
you know?
you want because that's the reason why you have to have some type of character development. Even like I said, even in the typical slasher film, you still want
Right.
you have your typical slasher characters. You have the nice girl, you have the horny girl, you have the jock, you got the nerd, you got the stoner.
Right.
So you want to at least have some type of character build up, so at least that way you care about what happens to them, whether you want that person to live or you want that person to die.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing here. You want to have some characterization build up, so that way when they do get possessed, you feel
Mm-hmm.
sorry for them. You want them to be saved. That's the reason why the Exorcist worked.
Yes, I
Mhm.
agree. I absolutely agree, man. I absolutely agree. Now we're gonna get ready to wind down here, guys. Because I'm actually gonna be doing another stream. We're doing
Yeah,
a members
and
watch party.
I gotta get ready for the Dallas 49ers football game that's coming up in a couple minutes, about 15 minutes.
Yeah. Let's see. Like I was saying, aside from the original Exorcist, which slow burn possession film was universally well received? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's probably a couple. I mean, Exorcism of Emily Rose. I think most people I've talked to really enjoyed that. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm sure there's probably a couple. It's a subgenre that is basically a slow burn subgenre, because even with the films that are kind of over the top, well, no, that's not true, because I just thought of things like Shark Exorcist. But anyways, but yeah, the good ones, anyways,
Hmm.
they usually are slow burn in nature, you know. Um, Molson Man in the chat saying, just getting here. I didn't hate it. All right.
All
Welcome
right,
to the
way to
chat.
go.
We're
Hmm.
actually winding down, so definitely check out the replay. We actually went through a nice variety of comments and our own thoughts on the film. But welcome. And by the way, if you guys have not hit the like button, please do.
Please
It
hit that like
helps
button.
to support the channel, and we'd appreciate it. Danielle's in the chat. What's up, Danielle? Good to see
What's up,
you.
Danielle?
Hope you're doing well. Molson Man saying a decent storyline, in my opinion. Execution might not have been the best. I think
Yeah,
that's well said. I
yeah.
think that's well said.
Mhm.
Like I said, this wasn't gonna reinvent the wheel. We all knew that, or at least we should have all known that. But they did some interesting things. I think the first half was the stronger half, and there were some good characters in it. Most notably, Leslie Odom. I thought he was
Mhm.
really good. But BTT saying, "Okay, big question: who's getting possessed in the next film? Is Angela really exorcised?" That is a good
Really,
question. I've got some
that's a
thoughts,
really
man.
good question. It's good. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what David Gordon Green and Danny McBride and anyone else is going to go when it comes to Deceiver. For all
Yeah,
we know, it could be whole new characters. He might
could
decide to go
be.
with a whole new character scout, and then he might all of a sudden just bring back Leslie Odom Jr. for maybe a brief moment, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You
could
know,
be. I'm gonna be really interested to see what they do. I
yeah,
really am.
so am I.
And I will say, I think that's, and again, for folks that didn't like this, they're not going to care, and that's perfectly fine. That's their opinion.
Mhm.
But for me, it's really interesting because now I'm thinking, well, where are they going to go with this? You know what I'm saying? Where are they gonna go? So yeah. For you guys just jumping to the chat, definitely a good welcome to you guys. We're about to end up here, but we we appreciate you guys coming in. Horror Cat Dad saying true story night. I was a Star Wars kid. As I got older, I'm more of a Blade Runner fan now. Nice.
That's good.
Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, because Blade Runner did not get any love back in the day. It tanked at the box office. So it just goes to show things can change. Things can change. Let me just make sure. Yes, thank you, Val. Definitely, if you guys can hit the like button, that would be great. And real quick, before we head on out, Danielle, it's true. Demons do whatever the storyteller says. Exactly. Just like in a slasher film. Hollywood guy coming in with a super chat at the end. $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Hollywood guy. We appreciate that. Saying there's a lot of movies about possession and conjuring and nuns. Everyone is getting burnt out. Just give us a break from those films. Yeah, I mean, there's truth to that.
I actually did enjoy The Nun too. I thought there was a improvement over the original Nun because it didn't have that terrible CGI in the third act of the film.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah, I thought it was an improvement over the first one too. Yeah, but in Hollywood guy, there's truth to that. But that's just like with the whole idea of sequels or remakes and so forth. Hollywood is going to put out what is making money. And the possession films, or the Conjuring universe, I should say, is making a lot of money. The Nun 2 made a lot of money, so
a lot of money.
It's not going to slow down, and
that's
it's a business.
It's a business. I mean, the Conjuring is one of the most successful horror franchises out there, so it's going to continue to make money. They're going to, James Wan and Atomic Monster films, and they're going to continue to make the money. Money they're going to continue to make it as long as Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga still want to be Ed and Lorraine Warren. You're going to see more of the Warrens in the film. Like I said, trust me, there's probably going to be a Nun 3 because of the money the Nun 2 yet. So we have not seen the last of Valak.
No, not at all. And I'm I gotta admit, I'm glad we don't, because I think that Bonnie Aaron's in this character of the nun as Valak. I do like it. She's so damn creepy, and for her, I'm happy for her success. Being a character actress for a long time, and now getting a chance to helm a franchise. I think it's really, really cool, man. Okay, guys, we're gonna get ready to head on out. For you guys in the chat, we appreciate you hanging out with us so much. This was a lot of fun to just begin to unpack all of the ins and outs of the Exorcist Believer, the things that were decent, the things that were good, and also the things that weren't so good. And I think that it's an interesting conversation, and I'll definitely be continuing this. Monty, thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you being able to jump on. It worked out so good.
Yeah, thank you for having me, because I had to get on it and talk to Clifford, because when I saw you were doing this, I said, "Oh man, I gotta get on with Night."
That's right, man.
Yeah, because more than likely, I'm probably going to have my own spoiler-free live stream with my good friend Mark, the movie man. I'm talking to him right now, and we're going to try to get that together for another spoiler-free. And of course, me, Trev, Patrick, Sean, Urshan, Jen, and Christian, Reviews in the Grave, and Marty. We'll be doing our horror hangout live stream next Tuesday. Probably not talking about the Exorcist films, but we will be talking about horror possession films and witchcraft.
Oh, nice. Well, that's cool. I like that. Well, definitely, you guys, if you haven't subscribed to Monty's channel, Val has put up the link again. So make sure you guys do that. And so we will catch you guys later. Take it easy. And as always, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch.
And horror rules.
It always does. See ya.
Night, people.